He'd be a pretty cold bastard who didn't want revenge for the death of someone he loved.
I don't think the dead care about vengeance. This man and I have some unfinished business.
The first thing you should know about us is that we have people everywhere.
What the hell is this organization, Bond? How can they be everywhere and we know nothing about them?
This is the world's most precious resource. We need to control as much of it as we can.
Name check. Dominic Green.
He's a person of extreme interest.
We've already begun destabilizing the government.
You know who Green is and you want to put us in bed with him.
Yeah, you're right. We should just deal with nice people.
Get in.
All right.
Careful with this one, Mr. Bond. She won't go to bed with you unless you give her something she really wants.
I think someone wants to kill you.
You two do make a charming couple, though. You're both, what's the expression? Damaged goods?
Seems we're both using Green to get to someone.
You lost somebody?
I did.
You catch whoever did it?
No. Not yet.
Tell me when you do. I'd like to know how it feels.
I will need you to get rid of him.
When you can't tell your friends from your enemies, it's time to go.
Right now, I think you're the only person I can trust.
James, move your ass.
I wish I could set you free. But your prison is in there.
You don't have to worry about me.
This is M-Wire, Movie Week in Review. M-Wire is brought to you by Audible.com. Sign up today to get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/geekcastradio. Start today with a free 30-day trial with over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Don't forget to follow Audible on Twitter at audible_com. And now the latest and greatest in movies with M-Wire.
My sources tell me you're Bolivian Secret Service. Or used to be. Not that you infiltrated Green's organization by having sex with him.
That offends you?
No, not in the slightest.
So what's your interest in Green?
Well, amongst other things, he tried to kill a friend of mine.
A woman?
Yes. But it's not what you think.
Your mother?
She likes to think so.
Hello and welcome to Shaken Not Stirred, M-Wire's Spotlight on the Bond films, which is brought to you by the Geekcast Radio Network and Audible.com. I am one of your hosts, Steve Joe Mike, and joining me as always is Movie Roll Dan. Hello.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about the second entry into the Craig era, which is Quantum of Solace.
Wow. Wait, was that a mistake? Did you meant to say that?
I gotta say the real title at some point. Okay, so when I was watching this back before we recorded this episode, I had to look up when this film was released, because I honestly could not remember, because I hated this film so much when I saw it the first time around. This film was released in 2008, the year of Iron Man and the Dark Knight. No wonder James Bond fans hated this movie, because superheroes defeated 007. Holy shit. Oh my god. Alright. I assume since Craig is your era, you saw this in theaters, yes?
This is the first one I saw in theaters, actually.
I feel so sorry for you.
But yeah, this is the first one I saw. I remember I watched Casino Royale. I don't, it may have been a year or two. I forget when I first heard about Quantum of Solace, and I went into the theater with high expectations, and we'll talk about how those expectations were met at that time. So,
all right. So when you were in your theater experience, what was that like? Because, like I said, I did not see this in theaters.
I remember probably usually I go on Saturday mornings because it's cheaper and it's less of a crowd. But I remember, like, at the time, I didn't really know much about. I wasn't really into reviews as much as I am now. Like, I don't know. I didn't have any idea what the overall expectations were or like what the reviews were going in. So I just kind of. And I was still getting into the franchise, so I wasn't going in with huge expectations. I just like, I love Casino Royale. Hopefully this one will be good too. And I remember watching it and kind of like I remember just being confused like a lot, just because I watched Casino Royale, but I didn't watch it like a day or two beforehand, and you kind of need to, because it ties in so much, and I didn't really expect that. I remember like characters returning. I'm like, and it picks up. I did not expect it to pick up like right after that movie. I'm like, I think this is how I couldn't, like, I was trying everything together, and I think that kind of, my first experience is probably my worst experience, because I was just trying to figure out how everything connects together, and I was trying to remember like all those different characters, and I'm horrible with names, so when they're talking about Vesper, I forgot that's who the girl's name was. I'm like, wait, Vesper is that. So I was always playing catch up, and part of that made me kind of, when I got to the final sequence, when it was kind of all kind of tying together, I'm like, I'm completely lost. I need to rewatch this immediately. I didn't like dislike it. I wasn't completely disappointed. I just remember just kind of being underwhelmed, and I just was like, I kind of felt like a bad moviegoer, like I didn't do my homework or something. And like, you ever, like in a class, and you have a story to read, and like you don't read it, and then you're trying to just play along like you did. That's kind of what like I felt watching this. I'm like, I'm playing along like I saw the movie beforehand, and I did, but I just couldn't understand the discussion that I was listening to. So yeah, that was my movie going experience.
Yeah, I think when I first rented this, because I did not see it in theaters. I was not interested at all. When I first saw this, it was at the time when I had joined Redbox, and I was constantly getting free rental codes because I was not going to pay $1, whatever at the time back then. I think it was like $1.06 here in Kentucky, which was what Redbox was. I was not going to pay even $1.06 for this movie. It just wasn't. So I used a free rental code, and I brought it home and I watched it because there's a Redbox kiosk over at across the street at the gas station that I live across from. So I mean, less than a 5-minute walk to get a free movie, that's fine with me. Got it home, and I was like, what the hell are they doing? I know we've had kind of sequels before. We've had kind of continuations before, especially with On Her Majesty's Secret Service and Diamonds Are Forever and all that. But as we said yesterday with Casino, Bond films are individual, damn it. They should not be film 1 sequel, film 2 sequel. It should not be that way. So yeah, and the other thing that doesn't, and we'll get into that. So let's go ahead and go to JT so you can synopsize the film and give us some little tidbits on Quantum of Boredom. We'll be back after this.
Opening just moments after the end of the last picture, Agent 007 James Bond is speeding along an Italian highway in his Aston Martin with the captured Mr. White in the trunk. But along the way, Bond is assaulted by Mr. White's henchmen who are following Bond. They open fire on him, and Bond shoots back, narrowly missing getting hit by oncoming traffic as they weave in and out on the road. Bond eventually runs most of the henchmen off the road and proceeds to meet M at a safe house located in the city of Siena, Italy. There, M tells Bond that the body of Vesper's boyfriend, Yusuf Kabira, has been found off the coast of Ibiza. However, forensics determines the body is not Kabira's, leading M to think he may still live. Bond pockets a picture of Yusuf with Vesper, then turns to interrogate Mr. White alongside M. Their questions amuse Mr. White, who says that the first thing they should know about his organization is that they have people everywhere, including MI6, it seems, as Mitchell, one of the other agents on hand, draws his gun and tries to kill M. As Bond struggles with Mitchell, a stray shot hits Mr. White, and he is thought to be killed. Bond chases after Mitchell, who tries to lose Bond in a crowd near a horse race, but to no avail. Bond catches Mitchell on the rooftop, and they fall into a building being renovated. Bond tumbles down some scaffolding, getting entangled in the ropes, but is eventually able to get his weapon and kill Mitchell. Upon returning to the safe house, Bond finds that White didn't die and has escaped. Returning to London, Bond meets with M as agents search Mitchell's home. M is distraught and at a loss as to how and why Mitchell was turned against MI6. Some marked bills are found that lead Bond to Slate, a man assumed to be Mitchell's contact. Bond travels to Port-au-Prince, Haiti to investigate Slate, but when entering his hotel room, Bond is attacked by Slate and kills him in the struggle. Assuming Slate's identity, Bond picks up his briefcase from the front desk and is picked up outside the hotel by Camille Montez. While they drive, Bond discovers Camille thinks he's a geologist, but it turns out Slate was hired to kill Camille by Dominic Green, Camille's lover and head of an ecological preservation society. When she sees the gun hidden in the case, she throws Bond out of the car and speeds off. Bond steals a bike from a guy who is following them and follows Camille to the docks. When Camille angrily confronts Green, he reveals he always knew she was only using him to get to General Medrano, a Bolivian general who is attempting to take control of the country. Green makes a deal with Medrano. His organization will help him take over Bolivia as long as they get a certain parcel of desert land in the country for their own purposes. Green even sweetens the deal, offering Camille to Medrano, who turns out to have killed her family years before. Bond watches and then pursues Medrano and Camille as they leave the docks. Bond steals a fishing boat and rescues Camille, resulting in a boat chase across the port. Camille passes out due to exhaustion, and Bond leaves her on the docks while he continues after Green. Working with M back at MI6, 007 follows Green to an airfield where he boards a waiting charter plane. When M checks up on Green, she discovers Green is being supported by the CIA, with Felix Leiter being one of the agents involved. Bond follows Green to Bregenz, Austria, and to an opera house where he discovers that some of the patrons are really members of Green's organization, called Quantum. Bond knocks out one of the Quantum members and steals his earpiece, listening in as Green and his cohorts plot their evil plots. Bond eventually lets him know that he's been listening and takes pictures of the Quantum members as they rise to leave the show, sending the pics back to MI6. After dealing with some goons sent to kill him, Bond goes to leave the theater and runs across Green. A gunfight and foot chase ensue as Bond tries to escape. During the melee, Bond is framed for killing a bodyguard of Guy Haines, a very well-connected advisor in the British government, by Green's men. Because of this, and because she thinks Bond's out of control, M freezes Bond's assets and revokes his 00 status. Not that this stops him for long, as Bond goes back to Italy to recruit Renee Mathis, who is cleared of any wrongdoing between films, to accompany him to Bolivia. When they land in La Paz, Bolivia, Bond and Mathis are met by Strawberry Fields, an MI6 agent sent by M to escort Bond back to the UK. Bond plays along, pretending to follow orders, but instead begins to seduce the hell out of Agent Fields so he can continue with his plan. After rolling in the hay with Miss Fields, Bond crashes an eco fundraiser Green is throwing, intending on confronting the slimy sociopath. Camille is also in attendance, where she spoils Green's party by exposing all of his lies and dirty dealings to the other guests. Green corners Camille on a terrace, intending to throw her over the side, when Bond and Fields intervene. Bond takes Camille and leaves, but he is soon pulled over by Bolivian police. The police order Bond to hand over his passport and then have him open the back of his ride, revealing a beaten and bloody Mathis. When Bond goes to help his friend, the cops open fire and fatally wound the ailing Mathis. After doing unto others as they have done unto his friend, Bond shows he hasn't completely hardened his heart, staying with Mathis in his final moments. As he fades, Mathis asks Bond to forgive Vesper, who really did love him, and to forgive himself. After placing Mathis in a trash bin, Camille calls Bond on his disrespect, Bond responding that Mathis wouldn't have cared. The two then travel into the interior of Bolivia and rent an airplane to survey the land Green acquired from Medrano. En route, they are attacked by a fighter jet and an attack helicopter, but despite being overpowered and outmatched, Bond is able to use his plane to take out the pursuing craft before he and Camille escape by parachuting into a sinkhole. After they have a moment to gather their wits, Bond and Camille start searching for a way out and discover that Quantum is hoarding the drinking water supply of Bolivia by means of underground dams. It's while searching for a way out that Camille tells Bond how she has spent years plotting revenge on Medrano for killing her family. After reaching the surface and getting back to La Paz, Bond is confronted by M at his hotel, where he finds Green has killed Miss Fields by drowning her in crude oil. Under pressure from above, and once again believing Bond has overstepped his bounds, M orders Bond to turn himself into MI6 custody. Bond quickly disables the other agents who arrest him and stealthily escapes to continue his pursuit of Green. Despite her own orders, M still believes in Bond and orders the remaining agents to keep an eye on him. Bond arranges to meet with Felix Leiter at a local dive bar and is told by his American compadre that both their governments have agreed to work with Green, believing that he is hoarding vast reserves of oil. Felix also tells 007 that Green is meeting with Medrano at a fancy eco-friendly hotel in the desert to finalize their deal. Bond then asks if there's anything else he should know.
How long have I got?
30 seconds.
Well, that doesn't give us a lot of time, does it?
Medrano can't move until he pays off the army and the police chief. Green's bringing him his money now. A hotel called the Perla de las Dunas in the desert.
Thank you, Felix.
James, move your ass.
Sit down! Sit down!
After escaping the CIA hit team, Bond travels with Camille to the desert near the Eco Hotel. As she cleans their guns before the battle, Bond offers Camille some advice about what to do when she confronts Medrano, knowing there's nothing he can do to change her mind. During the meeting, Green pays off the Bolivian colonel of police, who is the same man that sent the cops after Mathis and Bond. Green also hands Medrano a contract for utility services that Quantum will be provided after Medrano takes power. Medrano at first refuses to sign the unfair contract, but recants his decision after Green threatens to use Quantum's influence to destroy him.
If you decide not to sign, you will wake up with your balls in your mouth and your willing replacement standing over you.
After Medrano signs, Green hands over his payment, and then Medrano retires to his hotel suite. It is then that Bond and Camille begin their assault, with 007 drawing first blood by killing the police colonel for what he did to Mathis. Bond's actions cause one of the hotel's hydrogen fuel cells to rupture, causing an explosive chain reaction that begins to rip apart the hotel. Bond then attempts to capture Green, who loses his normal icy calm and goes bug nuts crazy, attacking Bond with a fire axe before escaping the burning hotel. Meanwhile, Camille goes after Medrano, interrupting his attempted rape of a hotel serving girl. Despite being overpowered by the despicable Medrano, Camille does succeed in killing her family's murderer. Exhausted by the effort, Camille collapses and is rescued by Bond, who effects her escape by shooting a fuel cell and blowing a hole in the wall. Bond then captures Green, who reveals all that he knows, and then Bond drives him into the middle of the desert. Bond drops Green in the proverbial middle of nowhere with nothing but a can of motor oil. Bond bets Green that he'll only make it 20 miles before he considers drinking the oil, knowing what the rest of Quantum will do when they find him. Bond then takes Camille to a nearby train station, the young woman wondering what her life holds for her now that her revenge is complete. They share a passionate kiss before going their separate ways, and Bond then travels to Kazan, Russia, to confront an alive and well Yusef Kabira, Vesper's former lover, in a scene reminiscent of his encounter with Dryden in Casino Royale. It seems Yusef seduces women agents of various governments, so that they may then be turned into moles for Quantum's benefit. Bond asks Yusef's latest conquest, CSIS agent Corinne Venot, to leave and alert her government before he questions Yusef. When he exits Yusef's apartment, Bond finds M waiting, who is surprised Bond did not kill him. She also reveals that Green was found dead in the desert after being shot in the head and having motor oil in his belly. M then asks Bond to return to MI6, with Bond responding that he never left, before walking off into the night and into the classic gun barrel sequence ending the film. Quantum of Solace opened on October 29, 2008 to mixed reviews. Roger Ebert, who loved Casino Royale, did not have much love for this new film. Ebert wrote that Bond lacked personality and the script was the weakest part of the whole endeavor. Dark Horizons critic Garth Franklin considered the film a disappointment that was barely plotted and poorly filmed. No, tell us how you really feel. However, the film did have some fans. Richard Knight of the Windy City Times said Quantum had plenty of thrills with enough bedroom action and some witty retorts to keep things moving along. And Austin Kennedy of Film Geek Central thought the film was a satisfying enough Bond film and thought it unfair to expect the film to be better than Casino Royale. Currently, Quantum of Solace holds a 64% fresh rating on RottenTomatoes.com. The film was directed by Mark Foster, who also directed films like Monster Ball and Machine Gun Preacher. Daniel Craig returned to the role of 007, joined by Olga Kurylenko as Bond girl Camille Montez, Matthew Almeric as the insidious Donna McGreen, Gemma Atherton as Strawberry Fields, as well as Jeffrey Wright, Judi Dench, and Giancarlo Giannini reprising the roles of Felix Leiter, M, and Mathis, respectively. One of the special aspects of Quantum of Solace was the fact that this was the first Bond film to use the rebuilt Albert Broccoli 007 soundstage, which burned down 1 week after Casino Royale finished filming in 2006. Also, the script for the film was turned in just 2 hours before the 2007 Writers Guild strike became official, which many fans say contributed to the overall quality of the film. And though it was placed at the end of the film, Quantum was the first film to bring back the traditional gun barrel sequence not seen since Die Another Day in 2002. And did you know that the film's Bond girl, Olga Kurylenko, beat out 400 other actresses for the role because director Mark Foster thought she was the least nervous? Quantum of Solace also holds a special place beside You Only Live Twice, Thunderball, and From Russia with Love, as Bond does not utter the line Bond, James Bond anywhere in the film. The film's theme song, Another Way to Die, was performed by Jack White of the White Stripes and Alicia Keys, a duet which was a first for the series. Quantum of Solace is definitely one of the worst Bond films for at least 2 reasons. The script, which was pushed through way too quickly because of the strike, would be the main culprit here. The cast worked with what they had, and I don't really blame them for that. The film alternates between padding and boring so much you barely notice the action sequences. And the second problem is the title. I'm sorry, but what the hell was The Quantum of Solace anyway? Anybody know? This has been Just the Facts for Quantum of Solace. I'm JT from Saskatoon, signing off and sending it back to M-Wire.
All right, thank you, as always, JT from Saskatoon, for those amazing Just the Facts. Okay, cast-wise, how did you feel about Daniel Craig in his second outing?
I think he was fine with it. I think he is a little bit more comfortable. Honestly, there's not much change between his performance in this and the previous films, obviously, because not much time has changed. But yeah, I think kind of that stopped his character development for the most part. He kind of was the same person. But I think he's just as good as he was. I think there's issues with this movie, but I don't think they're Daniel Craig.
Right, yeah. I feel the same way because of the fact that Casino and this is, you know, they're essentially one long story. There was no real time for him to, like we said in the Brosnan era, Tomorrow Never Dies. Brosnan is you know, still feeling around for the, you know, for the comfort zone, and by world is not enough. He has it. With this, there just was no room for Craig's acting as Bond to improve because you have to go by what happened at the end of Royale, and it just doesn't. I don't know. All right, so Olga Kurylenko as Camille Montez. She looks like specifically in the scene where she kills the general, and Bond's like, you know, hold on or come on or whatever Bond says, and when he's holding her, she just and I know in that moment she's supposed to look like a scared little girl, but it just I don't know, the acting on her part just didn't. I just didn't buy her as a Bond girl.
I honestly just think they didn't really give her much to work with. Like, her character was pretty bland. I mean, she's kind of forced into the movie a little bit because she kind of just shows up and she's kind of given like the same kind of Bond trip we've seen before, where she's trying to get revenge for her family, and we've seen that done before in like other films, like For Your Eyes Only and other Bond movies. And then you also have the fact that like the issue of Vesper is, in that character, is really like overshadowing this movie pretty greatly because, you know, her Bond relationship was such a strong part of that movie, and it's kind of like she never leaves. Like, you can, like, he is still interested in Vesper far more than he is in her, and like they never really connect. And I think in a way, if there's ever going to be a Bond movie without a Bond girl, this would probably be the one to do that with, because she does feel like she's just there because they're supposed to have a Bond girl, because there's not much to her. She kind of I think she's a fine actress. She's been in other things, like she was in Seven Psychopaths this earlier this year, and she was fine in that. I just think there's a lot of things. I think the biggest failure of this movie is probably the script and the direction, and I think with that comes a character like hers that's easily forgettable.
Right. You've got Matthew Almeric as Dominic Green, the main villain. Of course, he is a leading member of Quantum, posing as a businessman working in reforestation. I know JT explained the plot, but again, same thing with, as yesterday with Casino. What was it? Water rights was the plot in this? Like, I don't... Oh, God.
It's like he was basically the CIA was trying to use him to get oil, and then he was holding the water, and he was behind this secret organization that was trying to overthrow the Bolivian government. And for a movie that's not that long, it's only like 109 minutes, there is a lot of plot, and there's a lot of exposition and a lot of unnecessary information that's thrown into this movie. And I think that, like, the perfect example of it is Dominic Green and that character. Just, I don't know, he's so forgettable, and I think one of the worst Bond villains since, I don't know, I think probably, for me, probably be The World Is Not Enough with that main character. But, yeah, I just think he's, I don't know, like he's supposed to be like our first into the Quantum of Solace, a secret organization, and fortunately, like I think he was kind of a disappointment.
Yeah, he was a complete disappointment, and I will talk more about him later in my lowlights, but you've got Gemma Arterton as MI6 agent Strawberry Fields. Oh, that name isn't original. She'd like some wine with that.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems kind of out of place for this franchise. It's supposed to trying to make Bond more realistic. That they would have a character with a name like that. It seems kind of unnecessary. And
she is essentially what's her name was in the beginning of GoldenEye, the instructor. She's that type of role where she's just sent out to do a job. She's not like, she isn't a spy. She isn't, she isn't like a Miranda Frost or, someone like that. She's just a regular person. Like, she has nothing to do with the espionage end of it. She's just a regular person.
Yeah. She's...
I'll talk about the way she dies later, because Purvis Wade, damn it. Anyway. The guy playing Mathis returns.
Yeah, and that was kind of, honestly, when going back and watching this for the first time, like, I remembered his character, but I forgot a lot about it. So, like, that was one of the me trying to play catch up. Like, if you watch Quantum of Solace, I think you need to watch Casino Royale, like, almost back to back. I think it's the best way to experience the movie.
Of course, Jeffrey Wright is back as Felix. Love that. Thought that was great. I love the not necessarily the chemistry, but the interaction between Bond and Felix in this. He's like, you got 30 seconds. Good luck, brother.
Yeah. I love how like they give kind of Felix Leiter like a purpose in this. He has a conflict that he has to deal with, and we really haven't seen Felix really have to do that before. So that was kind of cool that they gave Felix more to do. I did appreciate that.
Oh yeah, it was so good. And of course, Judi Dench is back as M. Apparently, Forster felt Dench was underused in the previous films and wanted to make her part bigger, having her interact with Bond more because she is the only woman Bond doesn't see in a sexual context. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that statement, because while Bond in general, since there has been no, between Casino and this, there is no Q, there is no Moneypenny, there is no nothing, as far as those characters go. we've talked before where I thought that, Moneypenny is the one woman that Bond has enough respect for that he won't sleep with her. It has never even entered my mind that Judi Dench's M would be someone that Bond would... That just... No... Damn directors. Is there anyone else in the cast that you want to talk about? Because that's pretty much it.
No,
Jesper Christensen is back as Mr. White, but he doesn't last too long.
No, there really wasn't anyone else that really stood out all that much.
Yeah. Yeah, not really. Let's see. So, I'll tell you one thing I don't like about this film, besides the film itself, is worst Bond song ever. Oh my God.
I still think that goes to Die Another Day, but I don't know.
Oh no! At least, okay. Die Another Day is a bad song. It is. I'm not saying I'm not going to sit here and defend that song. But at least Die Another Day, I could understand what the hell Madonna was saying. Half the lyrics in this, I just didn't. I didn't even know what the fuck either one of them was saying.
I don't know. Do you like? I'm guessing you're not a White Stripes fan.
No, not really.
Yeah, I do. I like the White Stripes. And I like Alicia Keys. It's a random combination. I don't think it's the best Bond song, but I think I know a lot of people hate this song, and I guess I'm indifferent towards it. I kind of like the beat to it. I like the overall. The words to it are in the vocal aspect of it is lacking, but I kind of like the beat to the song, and just like it's nothing compared to like Casino Royale and You Know My Name, but I don't have a distaste for it like you do, I guess.
If it was just Alicia Keys singing it, it might be better.
I don't know. I think
and the funny,
I guess I'd
probably
say the opposite. I think it fits because the song to me fits more of Jack White's type of style than it does Alicia Keys. But I guess if you don't like his voice, because his voice is, it's not. It's a unique voice, and like a lot of people may not like it. It's kind of high.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could understand that.
Yeah. And I actually looked at that song title, Another Way to Die, and I thought to myself, where have I seen that song title before? It was a single track off of Disturbed's Asylum album. Same song name. Obviously a different song, but I was like, I could see Disturbed's Another Way to Die being the theme song for this movie. Be an improvement over what we actually got. What did you think of the rest of this, just the score in itself for this one?
It was okay. There wasn't really a moment that really stood out to me. I think a lot of this film felt rushed, and I think the score, for example, was a perfect example of how it didn't really do anything. It kind of just stuck with what came before. They never really used the Bond theme in interesting ways at all, and I never usually the kind of there's some really good reuses of the overall Bond theme song. I think Live and Let Die has one of the best reuses of that song, and especially the instrumental portion of it. And this, I never felt like that happened. So yeah, I think the score is rather forgettable in this.
Yeah, it kind of is. What I find interesting is that Mark Ronson and Amy Winehouse had recorded a demo track for the film.
Interesting.
Yeah, that would have been pretty interesting. Of course, it is on DVD and Blu-ray and all that good stuff as well. I can't believe this film actually made money, honestly. I know most Bond films do, but on the rewatch for my highlights, I only have one thing written down here. I love all the action scenes in this movie. I thought they were all very well done. I think my favorite line out of the entire film is when they're in the airplane and the quip Bond has about M. I thought that was hilarious. Other than that, I don't care for this movie at all. What about you? Any highlights?
I agree with you with the action. For the most part, I'm not a big fan of this director. He was a strange choice for a Bond movie, and honestly, he hasn't really done much that I've really enjoyed. I think his only movie that I feel has been good, it was Stranger Than Fiction. Everything else was, for me, like not that great. Like I'm not a big fan of Monsters Ball or The Kite Runner, which I love the book, but I thought the movie was lackluster. Machine Gun Preacher, I wasn't a fan of. I think that wasn't very good either. And I think a lot of people rag on the script, but I think I also like to rag on direction because I don't think he knows how to shoot action. And I think the action sequences were well staged, but they were shot poorly for the most part. The one moment I did really love is the opera sequence where you see Bond kind of listening in, and as Quantum is trying to, kind of relay their mission to one another. I love that moment, and like how Bond kind of just intrudes and taking pictures as he was watching them all walk away. I love seeing Bond do detective work like that.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of a secret organization. And we've had Spectre and trying to kind of take that idea and modernize it to for a new generation. I think that's a great idea. I just think the execution is lackluster, and I'm hoping they can go back to it, maybe redefine it a little bit better. But I just think it was a concept, like a lot of good Bond films, or a lot of Bond films that ended up being disappointments. They have good concepts, but they just don't know how to use them properly. And I think that's the big issue with Quantum.
I don't ever want to hear about Quantum ever again after this movie. I don't want to hear about the organization. I don't want them to ever use the organization again. If they're going to do something with MI6 versus another organization, bring Spectre, like the 21st century version of Spectre.
Yeah.
Do something like that. Don't bring in this half-ass wannabe.
They just got the rights back to Blofeld, so they could bring Blofeld back in. One thing I will say that's on the positive of Quantum of Solace is every time I've watched it, I think I've liked it a little bit better. And I think it does, like I mentioned, if you watch it right after Casino Royale, it does tie together so much more because you can see how they connect, and they connect. I think that connection kind of strengthens it in a way, but also if you watch them separately, it can dull your enjoyment, like it did for me in my first viewing. So I will say that there are bad movies that you hate more and more, but this is one that I've watched. I'm still not in love with it, but I think I've watched it multiple times, and I think every time I've watched it, I think my hatred towards it has lessened and lessened a little bit more.
Whereas I'm on the opposite end. I did watch 2 weeks ago before we recorded this. I did watch Casino and this back to back because I wanted to see how, if you did watch them back to back, if I would have the reaction that you would think that you would have with understanding more of it because of the fact that they are tied together so well. And when I went to watch it, this week or this time around, I just watched it on its own, and every time I've watched it on its own, I hate it more and more. I will never watch this movie ever again. This is by far second only to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, in my opinion. This is by far the worst Bond film.
I wouldn't go that far. It's definitely in the bottom 5, I would say. But I wouldn't say it's the worst. I think it's the worst Craig film. I mean, there's only been 2 up to this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I could understand that. I know a lot of people. I think a big part of the issue with Quantum of Solace is what's came before, and it is a disappointment. I mean, it is a huge drop off from Casino Royale to this. I mean, even with Brosnan, I think that from GoldenEye to Tomorrow Never Dies, I think that there was a drop off there, but it wasn't a huge drop off, and I think that was like a slow decline. But this one was just a gigantic downfall. Like immediately, I think makes it even a little bit worse when that happens.
Yeah, this is like if you put Craig into Die Another Day and have him hanging off the edge of the ice, like what Brosnan was doing.
Yeah,
the car. Yeah, that's what this movie is. It's hanging on a cliff by a bare fucking thread. As far as lowlights, I already mentioned the whole superhero defeats James Bond thing in 2008. The Bond girl in this Yerlenko or whatever the hell her name is. She is by far one of my least favorites. She just doesn't do anything for me at all. A Goldfinger reference, but with oil. Seriously?
Yeah, that.
Okay. Okay. What happened in Goldfinger was with Jill. Was it Moss? I forget what her last name is. The thing that happened in Goldfinger with Jill was shocking. Was, oh my god, I can't believe they did that. Here, seeing the teacher chick or the Miss Strawberry Fields, seeing her covered in oil and kind of posed the same way that Jill was posed in Gold, that was just the most disrespectful homage I have ever seen in a Bond franchise.
Yeah, it was really, especially because that character it kind of comes in. She felt like a moment and not a character. Like they just needed someone like Bond to sleep with, so they needed that love scene, and then they wanted like, oh, we came up with this idea of how we can homage.
Did you hit your mute? Hold on a second. What the hell happened there? That was weird.
I don't know.
Oh. Just say your point again, and I'll edit it out.
Okay. Let's go now.
Yeah.
Okay. With Strawberry Fields, she feels like a moment and not a character. It kind of just, she feels like she's in there so that Bond can have a sex scene, and she's in there because they thought of this idea of like, oh, we can cover in oil and homage Goldfinger, and it just, if that character had more of a point to her, like even in Goldfinger, like that, the character that gets covered in gold, she's not in the movie that much, but she has has moments that kind of let you feel sorry for her and what happens to her. And in this, Strawberry Fields just kind of there and goes away. So yeah, that moment was kind of unnecessary and kind of I think it did more to harm the film than like help it. Sometimes homages are nice, especially with the Bond franchise, but that one felt pandering and pandering that failed, which is the worst kind of pandering.
Yeah, exactly. And the last little line I had was Green's screams as he's attacking Bond are the screams of a 13-year-old girl. Such bad acting. Oh my god.
It's kind of got the body of a 13-year-old girl.
That's funny.
But yeah.
What do you have for lowlights?
Besides what you mentioned, we talked about the characters, and the biggest thing about this is, and it doesn't feel like a movie, a complete movie. It feels like kind of like an additional content to Casino Royale for like a good half of the movie, maybe 2/3 of it, and then like they tie in this extra 1/3 of over like plot that's unnecessary and boring. It's just it's for a movie that's only. It's like almost half the time as Casino Royale. It feels like double as long. So I don't know. I just think it. Some of the actors show up, but the director and the script, I think, really bring this film down.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I didn't. And the other thing about this movie is that it just doesn't. It doesn't feel like a Bond movie. It feels like, was this? Remember when I mentioned to you what would happen if they had used Lazenby in the first part of Diamonds Are Forever and then switched to Connery for the rest of it to have Lazenby handle the rest of what happened on Her Majesty's Secret Service. And this is the same thing. It's like all the revenge stuff and all this and all. It just doesn't. I almost feel like what they should have done, instead of having Vesper Lynd die the way she did, have her covered in gold paint or, do an homage like that in Casino or something. I don't know. Quantum is just so boring, honestly. It just is.
Yeah, that's too, the thing is, it feels like Vesper is forgotten though, like in a way, like you forget, like, until you have that end sequence, which actually is a highlight to me, is when he confronts Vesper's, like, I think, boyfriend, I forget, her lover or whatever, near the end. I like that moment, but she's so often forgotten that you forget that a lot of what he's doing is because of her, and his love for her and what happened to her. And then I think maybe what they could have done, like this is what they tend to do a lot, is when they have a revenge story. I think for me, I'm okay with a revenge story, but when they throw in all this extra stuff, it just feels like filler. And I think they had the issue with License to Kill. They had that issue with The World Is Not Enough, and it's another big issue with this movie, Quantum of Solace. Again, and then you know what's another low light? The title. It's one of the worst titles of all time, not just with Bond movies, but of just movies in general.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it's based. I mean, there's the short story written by Fleming, but the movie doesn't follow that short story. So, why they went with it, I don't know. It's just. I mean, it will maybe increase your vocabulary, but that's about all it's going to do.
So we are going to take a quick break. You're going to hear some ads and some other. I think I only have one or two Bond clips from Quantum. So we'll be back. What?
Are you snoring? Is that the clip?
Yeah, I guess I could put that in there. But we'll be back after this.
You can now hear the Geekcast Radio Network while on the go with Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher is a free-use and talk mobile app available for your smartphone. And when you download Stitcher to hear Geekcast Radio, you'll have a chance to win money. Downloading is quick and easy. Just find Stitcher in the App Store. During registration, hit the promo code box and enter Geekcast Radio, all one word, to get automatically entered to win $100. The latest episodes of the shows will be waiting for you in your favorites. You'll get access to lots of other amazing shows too. Always available to you on demand, no syncing. It's Stitcher Smart Radio. Don't forget to enter promo code Geekcast Radio when you register.
For you, the listeners of Movie Week in Review, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Use audibletrial.com/geekcastradio. Final thoughts on Quantum.
Quantum of Solace, I think, like I mentioned, though it does get better every time I watch it, it's still ranked as one of my biggest disappointments ever. It's right up there with Spider-Man 3, X-Men 3, other films that kind of, Phantom Menace, that had so much promise and then kind of completely fell flat. I mean, some of it wasn't its fault. I mean, the writer's strike and what have you, but still, it's a low light in Craig's career. And luckily, we may see some better, some more bright spots in his career left, as we'll talk about tomorrow. But yeah.
I could actually watch Spider and X-Men 3. I can't watch. I will never watch this movie ever again. Never. I can actually watch Phantom Menace and slightly enjoy it more than I enjoyed this shit.
See, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, there's moments.
I said slightly enjoy Phantom. I didn't say enjoy it all the way. I said slightly.
I mean, yeah, there are moments in that movie that are good, but you know what? There's probably a lot of similarities there that both have moments of like that work, and then there's so much garbage in between that it's hard to remember what's good about the movie.
We hope you enjoyed the Bond film review here in MY's Shaken Not Stirred series, and wish you'll join us tomorrow when we will wrap up the Shaken Not Stirred series here on Movie Week in Review with Skyfall. For now, I am TFG and Mike with
Movie Revolt Dan.
Thank you for listening. Until next time.
You've just listened to Movie Week in Review on GeekCastRadio.com. If you would like to leave feedback on the show, there are many ways to do so. First, you can visit the website, GeekCastRadio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. Be sure to rate our show on iTunes and leave us feedback. You can follow us on Twitter at GCRNMwire. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. You can email us at feedback@geekcastradio.com. Call the voicemail line 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. So until next time, unleash the geek in you.
In a world, there, I said it, happy.
Daniel Craig's my Wookiee bitch now.
Daniel Craig is my Wookiee bitch now.
Well, if only the Eon people weren't such prudes, it would be awesome to have a Disturbed Bond theme song.
It's just another way to die.
It's time to get out.
Another ringer with a slick trigger finger for Her Majesty.
Another one with the golden tongue poisoning your fantasies.
Another pill from a killer, turn a thriller to a tragedy. Yeah, door left open, a woman walking by, a drop in the water, a look in the eye, a phone on the table, a man on your side, or someone that you think that you can trust. It's just another way to die. Another tricky little gun giving silence to the one that'll never see the sunshine.
Another inch of your life sacrifice for your brother in the nick of time.
Another dirty money heaven sent honey turning on a dime. Well,